In the next 60 minutes tonight, former General Secretary of the MPP, who was once suspended and later removed, Kwabena Ejipon, opens up about his tenure and his undying love for the MPP and a desire to serve the party once more.
Serving my country. I mean, that's for a fact. Because I think I can make a contribution. I see a lot of things happen that I think can be improved and should be improved.
But what is his relationship with President Akufo-Addo, a man he was once accused of conspiring against?
I've always had a good relationship with him. I've visited him a number of occasions. Even and this year, he calls once in a while.
He does?
Oh, yeah.
I don't believe it.
You don't?
You want to stay with us for that. Also tonight, as a Ridge Hospital awaits results of a test conducted on an airline handler suspected of carrying coronavirus, President Akufo-Addo expresses satisfaction with Ghana's preparedness to handle an outbreak as he submits himself to temperature scanning.
We wanted him to experience the entire structure that we have put in here, so we wanted to screen him and make sure that he's not bringing anything into the country if we were considered as a passenger. And you're all sorry, he came out, his temperature was within the normal human temperature.
Tonight we'll bring you more from the President's visit to the Kotoka International Airport and other designated centers to deal with a possible outbreak.
Just simply have traveled. They don't have any cough, they don't have any sore throat, and they come panicking that they want to be tested. The test is expensive, and so before you will be tested, we must make sure that you fit the case definition.
Also tonight, police in the Bono region arrest wanted notorious armed robber who terrorized and allegedly raped 11 women at gunpoint in Sinai.
Suspect Abdullah will always attack his victims. He would also, most often, strangely engage his victims in long conversations, although he would end up sexually assaulting and raping them.
And then later, lawyers for former GFA president question charge of fraud filed by the AG's office as they insist the ex-football administrator has not committed the crime.
You are on your own and somebody suddenly appears and say that I want you to help me do ABCD, this is your reward. Subsequently, you turn around and say that you have committed an offense. And such things I don't think that are permissible under the law. And that you cannot induce somebody to commit an offense and turn around and say the fellow is guilty of that offense.
And in business, economist Professor Peter Korte charges Bank of Ghana to tread cautiously with pressure on Citi because of the coronavirus.
And later in sports, a former Black Stars Management Committee chairman is calling for massive support for Black Stars coach CK Akono following the announcement of his 23-man squad for the Sudan clash later this month.
You want to join us with your views and comments all here on News Night? Send me a WhatsApp 0244 340437. My name is Evans Mensah. Newsnight is brought to you by Puma Card from Puma Energy, cash-free convenience. I miss serving my party and my country. That's according to former General Secretary of the MPP, Kwabena Ejipon. Remember, he was once suspended, later removed, and his suspension came in the lead-up to the 2016 elections when he was accused, among other things, of conspiring against then candidate Nana Akufo-Addo. Well, he's been opened up about his tenure and all the controversy surrounding his leadership of the party as a general secretary. He's been sharing on PM Express what his hopes and aspirations are, hoping to come back fully into politics to serve this country and his party, he says. But has he really forgiving? Is he still bitter? Listen to him open up about that era.
People have to have faith in politics, in their political leaders. We don't have to continuously do things that destroy the confidence that people should have in politics.
Has that confidence been destroyed now?
A lot of things are happening that could be changed. I mean, you've seen what is happening with these so-called scholarships and all that.
They get fan scholarship.
That's right. And I think when something is wrong, it's wrong. And he
A lot of former friends are names have been come up.
It doesn't make it right. It does not make it right. So I think that as a people, we have to. Sometimes you have to die for your principle and suffer for it.
You say I mentioned to you that some of your friends are involved in the Get Fund. You said, well, if it's wrong, it's wrong. Stuff like that can get you into trouble in politics in Ghana.
It shouldn't. It shouldn't. And I think we need to create a critical mass of people who love this country.
Yeah.
And the good people should rise up. And we should have a critical mass.
Mm.
When I see the battle to get into government, we send a bad signal.
Mm.
The bad signal is as if we go into government to fatten ourselves.
Isn't that what happens?
No, I didn't. I was there for 6 years. Nobody could point a finger to me.
But I know that's probably an exception to the rule.
But that should not be the case.
Isn't this government making a difference in these masses that you just talk about?
I've told you that. I know you won't lose a chance to drag me into.
No, it's a simple question.
It's not a simple question.
Haven't you seen
I've told you
improvement in the last 3 years?
I've told you, Evans, that you know what? When I want to get back into the fray, you'll be the first to know.
Let me ask you this: Are you still a card-bearing member of the MPP?
Of course, I've never been removed as a member. People tend to get confused. I mean, I was suspended as General Secretary of the party. That tenure is over. So the mandate is gone.
But you use an important point. Suspended.
Yes.
Are you still in suspension?
When your tenure is over, suspension from what?
I get the point. I mean, but you know what I mean. I mean, the word you use was suspension.
No, so I think it's quite clear. My letter is clear. It's there. It's public document. When you are suspended from a position, footballers tend to get, 5 games, 6 games, And so once the mandate expired on April 14th, 20...
You remember?
Of course I do.
Why do you remember?
Of course it's important.
Why?
It's an important part of my life, and I love my party, and it's part of my public record. And I worked hard to become General Secretary, and I still stand by what I did and worked hard for the party, and I love the party, and I still contributed.
You still love the party?
Of course. I contributed a lot to the 2016 elections. A lot of people...
Even in all the challenges that you
can ask the many constituencies that I helped, that I mobilized resources and supported. It's documented.
So you haven't...
I didn't hide it. I didn't hide it.
You still pay your dues to the party?
Of course. I paid every 4 years. So I paid up to the next 4 years last year at my hometown.
Would you contribute this year? I don't mean pay your dues. I mean, this is an election year. Your party needs you.
I think definitely. Of course, right now I'm the executive director of a non-governmental organization. So that's why I didn't want you to draw me into this. But of course, I think there's a higher calling of serving our country. And I do believe sooner rather than later, I'll be back in there.
That is important. This is sooner rather than later.
Yes.
They say the leopard doesn't lose those spots. So you were hoping to come back into full-time politics?
Of course. I'm too young to leave it.
Interesting.
And I think I should always serve my country.
In what capacity?
Well, that is not to be determined
now. Politics?
Of course.
Or government service?
Whatever. You have to serve your country. It's absolutely vital.
I think you asked my question. You're not retired then? No. You're not a retired politician. You haven't retired from politics?
No, I haven't said so. Sometimes you can take a sabbatical.
So this is sabbatical?
You can take a sabbatical.
But sooner than later. This year? Next year? Any time frame on it?
Let's leave it that way.
Well, Mr. Kwabena Japan was also, when he was the General Secretary, accused of conspiring against the current President, Nana Akufo-Addo, when he was the opposition leader and the candidate for the party for the 2016 elections. I asked him about that. I asked him about his relationship with the President.
I've always had a good relationship with him. He's been like a senior brother to me for many years. I still see him. Since he's been president, I went to him personally to go and congratulate him at home. I've visited him a number of occasions. And this year, He calls once in a while.
He does?
Oh, yeah.
I don't believe it.
You don't?
I call him. I lived through the time that you were going through the challenges. I don't think that was said about you, that you were conspiring against him. You wanted Agenda 2020.
I think we all know. I don't want to get into that. Sometimes I don't want to dignify these things because everybody knows what I've done for this party and where my heart is.
I don't think you have to address it because, you see...
Well, the right time will come for us to address it.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm surprised. I'm surprised that he calls you.
But I call him too. I go to him.
Oh, you do so, do?
Yes.
You're so pals.
Yes. I mean, I don't think
there's this public image that the two of you are on terrible terms.
No. If I want to see the president, I call him sometimes at night and I'll drive to him. And we'll have a little chat, We've been friends for many years. We were friends before politics, mind you. When my office at Consul Council was at Adabraka 54 Jones Nelson Road, and he was off Kojo Thompson Road. And so that was in the 80s. And don't forget, he was the president of the Greater Accra Bar during the difficult times of the Martyrs' Day celebrations when the lawyers wanted to remember the death of my father and his colleagues. The cadets would be mobilized and beat them up, and he stood tall, and that's how we became very close. And we've been close ever since. And of course, in politics, things can happen, and you have to be realistic.
Have you forgiven, though?
I've never had a heart of bitterness. Never. It's never been.
In spite of all that you believe, because I've heard you complain in the past.
Never.
In spite of all that you believe you went through.
Never. I mean, those who did what they did, some of them still see me, and they realize that it was all a farce. It's completely unnecessary.
You're not bitter at all.
Not at all.
Because a lot of allegations.
I've never been bitter. You don't have time to be bitter.
And that is Kwabena Japan. He is the former General Secretary of the MPP. He was speaking to me on PM Express last night. PM Express is on 9 p.m. on the Joy News channel from Monday to Wednesday. Tonight we are having a conversation about the law that Parliament is, the bill that Parliament is considering that will ban the importation of second-hand cars and salvage vehicles. Want to join us for that at 9 p.m. tonight on the Joy News channel. Now let's move on to the conversation around the coronavirus and Ghana's preparedness for it. The Greater Accra Regional Hospital is awaiting results from samples taken from an air handler who showed symptoms of the coronavirus. The patient whose identity is being withheld is said to be in quarantine after showing signs of the virus, which has so far killed over 3,000 people worldwide. Chief Executive Officer of the Ridge Hospital, Dr. Emmanuel Srefenyo, who disclosed this during a visit by President Akufo-Addo today, said the facility has so far tested 17 people for the virus, but it all proved negative. Presidential correspondent Elton Brobe walked around with the president on tour and joins us with details. Walk us through the tour today.
So, Evans, we started at the Kotoka International Airport, which is our main port of call for those traveling into the country. President Akufo-Addo himself was out of town. He toured some European countries, Norway being one of them. Remember that he left Norway on Wednesday, and Norway recorded it first, coronavirus, on Thursday.
No, so that is an important point to note, because we've heard just on Top Story the the spokesperson for the Minority on Health say that the president should self-quarantine because he had traveled into Ghana from Norway, which we know has, at the last check, 19 confirmed cases of the coronavirus. According to the timelines you're indicating to us, he wasn't in Norway when the first case was confirmed.
Absolutely. He left Norway on Wednesday. The country recorded its first case on Thursday, so some hours after he left. So today at the Kotoka International Airport, he wanted to understand the protocol and to satisfy himself with what the Kotoka International Airport has put in place to ensure that in the event that we have a case, what are we to do before the person is quarantined. And Mr. Yakwaka, who is the managing director of the Ghana Airport Company, says that the Kotoka International Airport is strictly adhering to laid-down procedure to ensure that all people who are coming into the country are tested first, their temperature taken. If it's above the recommended level of 37%, then you are quarantined. So far, he says that they've recorded 2 cases where the individuals were taken to the Ridge Hospital and later tests conducted and proved negative. Let's listen to him and President Akufo-Addo before the president subjected himself to some tests.
One measure that we put in place to make sure that we don't get people bumped together is to sometimes delay flights. So a flight may land and we may hold them. And we use the health ministry to achieve that because
evacuate before 9/11.
There was an issue this morning where we had to delay a flight 30 minutes and they were complaining, but we told them that we have to do it for the sake of industry, and so they complied.
Safety before everything else.
So that's the managing director of the Ghana Airport Company, Mr. Yakwakwa. Later, after the tour, he spoke to the media and then briefed us on why President Akufo-Addo temperature had to be taken, and or that we can listen to him more on that.
We are well prepared to deal with the coronavirus issue per every international standard. As you know, the incubation period for the virus is about 14 days. So one critical thing that we need to do is to make sure that we know about each passenger that enters Ghana, where they are coming from, which country they visited the last minimum 14 days, so that even if they don't show any sign of having the disease, we would have information if should he develop that disease in the future. In addition to that, the number one symptom of the disease is temperature rise. So we monitor the temperature of each individual that enters the country. So if the temperature of an individual happens to be above the president visited the airport to evaluate how ready the airport is in dealing with this coronavirus matter. From what he said when he was getting to it, I was quite satisfied that we have put in place measures along international guidelines to make sure that the country is well protected against the coronavirus.
So far, have you recorded any incident?
No, we haven't recorded any incident, but we have gotten through threat. Threat in the sense that people show signs of having the virus. And so we're quarantining those people. We got our medical team to take samples of that person, tested it by on both occasions. The test proved to be negative, so the people were allowed to go.
Interestingly, you allowed the president to go to the temperature.
No. So we wanted him to experience the entire structure that we have put in here. So we wanted to screen him and make sure that he's not bringing anything into the country if we were considered as a passenger. And you all saw it. He came out in flying color. His temperature was within the normal human temperature.
And the Ghana Health Service, they've designated several places as places where, in case we have a confirmed coronavirus case, that those places will deal with that. One of those places is Ridge, the Ridge Hospital. The president was there as well today.
Before Ridge, Tema General Hospital, and then Ridge.
You went to Tema as well?
Right.
Okay.
Ridge, they have an isolation center where they have 4 beds. Now, the news from Ridge is that they've so far tested 17 cases. All 10 are negative. Now, what they are waiting, the result they are waiting is an air handler whose case came in last night. And this case came from a hospital at East Legon, Ghana Canada Hospital. This person, according to the chief executive of the hospital, showed signs of the virus. So they have isolated him. They've taken samples. They've given it to Noguchi. They are waiting the results. They are hoping to get it within 6 and 8 hours. Now, the outcome of the results will tell whether they will move into the next stage of the quarantine process and then to now advise on the way forward. Now, the challenge they are facing is that because of the fear that this has engulfed everybody around the world, people are walking in voluntarily to get themselves tested, especially those who've traveled out of the country and have visited the country that have recorded cases. Ray Hospital is saying that the test is very expensive. And because these people are coming in because they are experiencing flu or headache or fever, it is putting a strain on their finances. I spoke to Dr. Emmanuel Sefenyo, Chief Executive Officer of the Ridge Hospital, who tells me that when they get the results from this person whose case is now currently before Noguchi, then they will know what next step to take.
The fact of the matter is that so far we've tested about 17. Yesterday we tested another case. There is today's own.
Yeah, making 18.
Today we have tested another one, making 18 cases, all of which fit into the case definition. However, all of them has been negative. But the one we did today, the results are not yet in. We are waiting the results. So that is the situation as it is currently.
So the one you are waiting result, where is that patient now?
That patient, we were called from one of the private hospitals that they had Ghana Canada hospital that they had such a patient. So we told them to hold the patient there in quarantine, and we sent our officers, disease surveillance officers there to take the samples and send to Noguchi, and currently we are waiting the lab. But we are ready. So when the results come and it is negative, they will continue further treatment over there. But when the results come and it's positive, then we will transfer the patient to this site and continue further care here.
So this patient, did he come from out of Ghana, or the case was reported within?
Yeah, so the patient had come into contact.
An airline operator.
The patient himself is an airline operator, and so he has the international travel back history, and then he has severe sore throat, he has the temperature, he has fever, but still we are waiting for the result. We've had patients like that who fit all the definition, but they came negative, and so we are still not thinking that but whatever it is, we are just simply waiting for the results, and then we know the next steps. So for now, we keep the patient here. For those that come already to our doorstep, we keep them in this facility, in the rooms that you saw. We keep them there until the results come. But as you can see, if any time that we have a positive case, we will no longer mix the suspected cases with the positive cases. In that case, we will put the suspected cases at another place, because you could be suspected, but it could come out negative. So it is not ethical to mix them together. So we have another center which we have prepared down. When we get to that point where we have a confirmed case here, we will open that center for the suspected cases. So many people haven't traveled, start panicking because they've heard of this condition. We have been advised to go strictly by the nationally defined case definition. So you must have fever, 38 degrees Celsius or more. You must have traveled outside, either to China or any of the countries affected, or must have come into contact with any of somebody who have come from this site. You must also have respiratory symptoms. You should be maybe coughing and sneezing, and people just simply have traveled. They don't have any cough, they don't have any sore throat, and then they come panicking that they want to be tested. The test is expensive, and so before you will be tested, we must make sure that you fit the case definition. For some of those people who have come in, we had told them that you go back, your case does not fit into the definition of the cases that should be tested. And so some of them don't understand though, but we also have to preserve the resources to be used for people who are actually at risk.
And your person, are there resources to carry this very important task?
Our own resources, we are talking to our authorities to talk to the necessary funders for such a facility to happen. Because as a nation, we need a bigger facility than what we have currently here.
What was the president's verdict after the tour today?
Well, his words were, to quote him, very satisfied. Let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that the situation stays this way. And the government is still consulting with the relevant bodies to ensure that Ghana is in a state of adequate preparedness to deal with any outbreak.
Well, today there was a press conference by the health minister. If you join us on Top Story, you'd have heard the details. A key thing that emerged from there is that currently they've enlisted the help of the national security to track down suspected cases, especially those who are coming from affected areas. Also, there is a community. The health minister says he will not disclose where he says, and again confirms, that a group of Chinese nationals who came in had chosen to self-quarantine, and that the health authorities got a tip-off from the community, the residents within the community, about the activity of these Chinese nationals there, and they had sent in a team of health professionals together with national security operatives, and they had seen the place, and there's monitoring currently going on. They're going to allow them to be in that quarantine for up to 14 days, and the determination will be made upon 14 days what to do with them. That's the latest on that. As far as the finances are concerned, he also confirmed that today the finance minister met with the governor of the central bank, and an additional 11 million cedis set to be released for the fight. A few of you have joined us with your views and comments on this particular story. I want to share a few with you. Michael, in the UK, says, as a matter of fact, the rate at which the COVID-19 is spreading globally is very alarming, and there is an urgent need for Ghana Health Service to intensify the education on this deadly virus for the citizenry to be conscious. Says, I am 100% convinced by the explanation given by the health minister with regards to the plans put in place to ensure that Ghanaians are safe from coronavirus. This one from Mauli says, if not everyone that returned from countries that reported the case, then which people was the letter referring to? This one has no name. He says, why should we still allow the Chinese to come into Ghana? Other countries have prevented the Chinese from entering into the country. Well, the health minister responded to a question around this, and he says, we do not currently have a direct flight from China, so that is a difficulty. Steve-O in London says, Evans, please, how long does it take to get results from a coronavirus test? I think when we last spoke to the Noguchi Memorial Institute, it's between 6 and 8 hours. Here in the UK, it takes 48 to 72 hours for results to come in. So what methods is Noguchi using to get these quick results? Well, that's what he said. When we get them, we'll put your questions to them. That's it. A few of your comments there. When I get more, I'll share it with the rest of the world. But let's go to the Bono region now, because a 24-year-old man has been arrested for allegedly robbing and raping 11 women in Sunyani municipality in the Bono region. Police say the suspect, Abdullah Karim, alias JJ, a resident of Yawima near Sunyani, has been on their wanted list for a year now. Now, a discreet investigation led to his arrest this weekend at this hideout at a hotel in Sunyani. Bono Regional Police Commander DCOP Godfred Owusu-Boateng has been addressing the media on the matter today.
On Sunday, 23rd February 2020, the Sunyani police arrested one Abdullah Karim, alias JJ, age 24, and a resident of Yahima, Sunyani. The suspect has been attacking and robbing and in some cases raping largely female victims in and around Sunyani since the year 2019. The suspect would usually attack his victims at gun or knife point, steal their cell phones, laptops, home theaters, televisions, sums of money, and other valuables. He would sometimes also rape his victim as well. These reports were of great concern to both the Bono Regional Security Council and the Regional Police Command, and so we have since been working very hard but discreetly to arrest the suspect and his accomplices. We have been discreet about our investigations because of the victims involved and the trauma they have had to endure at the hands of the suspect.
He's also been detailing the modus operandi of this particular suspect and his accomplice.
Suspect Abdul Kalim's modus operandi is to either enter victims' bedroom through their windows, their front doors, or in some case to turn off victims' electricity main switch meter in order to lure them out of their bedrooms to find out what might have caused their lights to go off. He would then threaten them with a gun or a knife, raping them in the process. Suspect Abdullah will always attack his victims initially wearing a mask put along the line, completely remove same or pull back same, exposing his face to his victims. He would also most often strangely engage his victims in long conversations, although he would end up sexually assaulting and raping them of their valuables. Suspect Abdul Karim, who robbed 3 females within 2 weeks ago, was arrested at his hideout at a hotel in Sunyani. The gun which he had been using has also been retrieved by police. The said gun is believed to have been stolen. We know where he stole them from. Suspect Abdul Karim is cooperating with police and has admitted having either robbed or raped the victims in the cases so far reported. The suspect's accomplice in one of these robbery cases has also been arrested. On Wednesday, 26 February 2020, suspect Abdul Karim was arraigned before District Court B, Sunyani, and was remanded into police custody to assist police investigations into other cases which he is involved.
I heard that the Bono Regional Police Commander there, DCOP Godfred Owusu-Boateng. Still ahead here on Newsnight, lawyers for former GFA president question charge of fraud filed by the AG's office as they insist the ex-football administrator has not committed a crime.
You are on your own and somebody suddenly appears and say that I want you to help me do ABCD, this is your reward. Subsequently, you turn around and say that you have committed an offense. And such things I don't think that are permissible under the law, and that you cannot induce somebody to commit an offense and turn around and say the fellow is guilty of that offense.
And in our Ghana Man series today,
when the landlord is there to tell the eloquent story of his house, you don't ask the caretaker for confirmation. When you even cough in the market, even the deaf can understand what you have said. When your mouth is full of water, you cannot blow to the candy fire.
the MP who literally fries his words in the oil of Proverbs, A.B. Fusini, demonstrates his unmatched love for Proverbs on the Super Morning Show, and he will feature him today later on Newsnight. George Yaffe is here with the latest from the world of business. Hello, George.
Hi, Evans. Coming up in business, the Securities and Exchange Commission ties full payment of locked-up investment funds to completing the current validation process, and we'll also be hearing from an economist, Professor Peter Kote, on what should be the Bank of Ghana's response to some pressure on the city because of the coronavirus. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all your office essentials.
What kind of phone is this? Hey, Joe, into the coloring to have a radio. Chance not for you. Uber upgrade. Shasuna Daily. *120*1#. Nabeka MTN Resume level provo. If free and never pim every busumi in a year. Would your Kosuna use with MTN number? No. Do more. Now with me, we need one of the 20,000 iPro Amber 5S phones. Cafe door. Bob, come up. Test it. Now, for Chama Monica. Agbena. I said, Ubecha new ringtone. So we'll start with iPro Amber 5S phone. MTN Resume level provo. New year, new phone, new ringtone. We are good together. We're there for you everywhere you go.
Mr. Barr has big dreams for his business, Barr & Co. Limited, and his family, making them a reality man to long drives and queues. He's lost precious time struggling to pay his suppliers in China, Turkey, India, and other parts of the world. With the First National Bank global payment via our online banking enterprise, he now pays for all that in the convenience of his home or office, giving him time to focus on family and growing his business. Use our online banking enterprise to access Forex when you need it. It takes a bank that does more to help your family. So who's helping yours? First National Bank. How can we help you?
We know it's important to create a productive and supportive working environment by investing in your employees' health. With a leading international track record, Apex Health Insurance is regulated and licensed by the National Health Insurance Authority to provide medical insurance services to institutional clients, families, and individuals. Apex Student Package and International Medical Solutions are all here to cushion you. Visit Apex Health Insurance Office at Zion House, Boundary Road, Shiashi, or call
0501-683-914
or 0232-000-015. In Kumasi, we are located opposite Prempeh College, Sofo Line, and in Takrady, Apex Health, your preferred health insurer.
Joy 99.7 FM, radio for the discerning listener.
You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, the Securities and Exchange Commission says it would commence the payment of locked-up funds with these collapsed investment institutions as soon as it finalizes the validation process. The Commission last year revoked the licenses of some finance and investment firms for failing to meet some regulatory requirements. However, it is yet to commence payment, just like what has happened to other institutions like the banks, the savings and loans, and the microfinance company. Reverend Daniel Ogbamitete is the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission.
I know that people are frustrated or eager, to see some payments, but I believe you'd agree with me that we need to make sure things are done, as properly as can be. So the stage we are at is validation, and once we start a process, we are also thinking that we are not going to wait for the entire validation to be complete. So it will be, if you like, pay as you go, as in once you do some validation and you are satisfied, then whatever the government has promised, to offer us a relief will be paid. So after liquidation, some proceeds hopefully would be recovered, and again that would go towards restoring investors. So it's a two-pronged approach. Government has promised some amount, but when the liquidation process is also completed, whatever proceeds will be realized from the liquidation process will also go to sorting out the affected investors. So where we are at is the stage of doing the validation so that government will be able to instruct that the payment should begin. So our appeal is for investors to remain calm.
Reverend Daniel Ogbamitete is the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission. He was speaking at a meeting in Accra with capital market players on promoting responsible investment together with the global reporting standards. Meanwhile, the Managing Director of the Ghana Stock Exchange, Ekafezi, has been speaking more about this new reporting standards.
How do we improve liquidity? How do we improve reporting standards? We have to look at our transaction costs on the market, etc. So it is true that improving reporting standards is one of the key things that we need to do. The impact of having some quality reporting standards is the fact that investors now will be comfortable. They will be able to base their decisions on the information they receive without any problems, especially if the information is adequate and timely. It makes it easier for investors to take decisions.
Ekwafezi is the Managing Director of the Ghana Stock Exchange. Now, economist Professor Peter Korte is asking the Bank of Ghana to tread cautiously over how it reacts to that slight pressure on the Ghana city because of the coronavirus. The disease has virtually slowed down some economies. It's actually seen some investors move their funds to gold as a safe haven. Now, this has resulted in some pressure on the city Halton that sustained appreciation that we've seen since the beginning of the year. There are calls for some significant dollar injection to help deal with the situation, but Professor Peter Korte tells Joy Business the Bank of Ghana must be strategic in responding to this.
The rate of movement has not been very significant. So perhaps it's better to watch the market and see how it unfolds. Then the central bank can step in. You also ought to be cautious, because if you pump in too much of your reserves at this point, and later when, God forbid, that the impact becomes more severe and you don't have the reserves to step in, that will be more devastating. So I think we need to tread cautiously. The Bank of Ghana needs to tread cautiously, not to pump in more money. At the moment, with some of the measures put in place, like the forward sales and the like, we are seeing some results, and I believe they should pursue more of those for now.
Professor Peter Korte is also optimistic that the country will soon start benefiting from the U.S. Federal Reserve's decision to cut its interest rates by 50 basis points. Now, government is in talks with Air Canada over plans to possibly begin shuttle flights to Accra. The move will actually, because it's influenced by that increase in passenger numbers on that Accra Canadian route. Now, Chief Executive of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Yofi Grant, says the talks are just at the initial stages.
If we look at the Ghanaian diaspora in Canada, it's quite sizable. It gets a bit difficult, or it's long traveling back home. It's far. But if there was to be a direct flight, that would be anything between 9 to 8 hours. So it's a question that is being asked all the time. But of course, I mean, the economics of it has to be right. It means that it must be traffic that is consistent, sizable enough. But there are arrangements to see how using fifth right freedoms in the airline industry, to see how you can actually have Canadian or Air Canada flights come together without Air Canada itself, through their alliances. So that is important to continue investigating.
That's Chief Executive of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Yofi Grant. Now, power transmission firm Gridco has announced that it will soon be moving to demolish unauthorized structures around its transmission lines. The action will be targeted at activities like drilling, excavation, lorry parks, shops, garages, and bars. The rest are real estate operating in these areas not exceeding up to 20 meters of each of its center line of transmission towers. According to Gridco, these activities pose a major danger to human property as well as its transmission lines. And that's all for Business on Newsnight. Back to you, Evans.
Joe, thank you very much. So listening to News Night is on Joy 99.7 FM. I want to take you to court now because lawyers for former GFA President Kwesi Nyantakyi have jumped to his defense, questioning the charge of fraud filed by the AG's office. They say he has not committed a crime. The former football administrator was in 2018 filmed in a documentary using the name of the president to peddle influence. Now, court correspondent Joseph Akable was in court as Mr. Nyantakyi was granted a 1 million CD bail. He filed this report.
We will form a company to be the agency, and that company will be responsible for ensuring that the benefits that the GFA will promise are and then we will negotiate with GFA. He will not pay. GFA will pay from the sponsorship amount. And the school money. We can charge 20%, 25%. Then amongst us, we agree that this person gets this. Everybody should be sorted out.
Mr. Nyantakyi interacting with investigators from Tiger IPI. He's alleged to have executed an MOU in the name of a non-existent company that was to be used as a vehicle to secure sponsorship for the Ghana Premier League. The money for the sponsorship, prosecutors say, was to be channeled through a savings and loan company owned by the football administrator. The money for the sponsorship, prosecutors say, was to be channeled through a savings and loans company owned by the former football administrator. The prosecutors further say he demanded an amount of $12 million from the Tiger Eye team to be used to pay public officials, including the president and vice president, to secure contracts for the investors. Mr. Nyantakyi and Abdullah Al-Hassan pleaded not guilty to the charges of fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud and corruption by a public officer. He was admitted to bail in a sum of 1 million cedis with 3 sureties, one to be justified. His lawyers maintain he has not committed any crime. Charles Posen is a member of the legal team.
No, basically these are charges that the state has filed. Our clients have pleaded not guilty to those charges, so the basis is that it is our view that these are not charges that can be proven by the state. You are on your own and somebody suddenly appears and say that I want you to help me do ABCD, this is your reward. Subsequently you turn around and say that you have committed an offense. And such things I don't think that are permissible under the law. And that you cannot induce somebody to commit an offense and turn around and say the fellow is guilty of that offense. So basically that's what he sought to do in the application for bail.
Satisfied with the bail conditions that have been fixed?
Basically, yes, they are going to meet the bail condition, except that we think that the kind of offense and the kind of amount they say they are involved, you ought not to give such a bail, lengthy bail term. Let me put it this way, condition. But I believe that as the court has a discretion to exercise, so they've exercised the discretion.
The case has been adjourned to March 25 for case management conference.
And Joseph Akable filed that report. Now, the Mass Action Committee, a group backing the creation of a new register, has lashed out at the inter-party resistance against the voters' register after they claimed that the Electoral Commission blatantly lied about the status of the biometric verification management system. Now, Mass Action Committee argues that the EC's quest to procure new biometric kits for the polls is premised on recommendations by the manufacturers that the kits have attained its end of life cycle. We'll hear from the executive secretary of the group shortly, but first listen to NDC General Secretary Johnson Siri Nketia revealing at a press conference yesterday that an email correspondence between them and the manufacturers of the kits contradicts the EC's claim that the kits are obsolete.
On the 1st of January 2020, we sent an email to HSB Identification BV of Holland, the manufacturers of the current BVR equipment, seeking information on whether or not the BVR equipment they supplied Ghana are obsolete, and whether or not the current BVRs can be upgraded or upgraded to include facial recognition. In a response to this email dated 2nd January 2020, Mr. Marcel Bogard of HSB Identification BV indicated as follows. 1. That the current BVRs are not obsolete. 2. Although the notebooks, computer operating systems and software of the current BVRs need to be upgraded, components like the fingerprint scanners were very robust and fit for use. 3. The enrollment software could easily be upgraded
That is Asedu Nketia addressing a news conference yesterday. Then the counter press conference by the other group, the Mass Action Group today. Just to counter that, Atiq Mohammed, who is executive secretary of that group, at this news conference today, questioned the authenticity and the credibility of the said email correspondence, arguing that the said email does not bear the letterhead of the manufacturing company.
The Electoral Commission did not just wake up one day to say these equipment, according to our estimation, are obsolete. It was a function of some assessment and also the performance of these equipment and the fact that those who manufactured them themselves had agreed that they were obsolete. It is, however, unfortunate to observe that a group that purports to resist the new voter register has attempted in their latest stand to insinuate that the EC's claim about obsolete equipment is sheer mendacity. They argue that their position is vindicated by some alleged email correspondence between them and the manufacturers. It is a considered view of Mass Action Committee that such a conclusion could only be a function of lack of information or excessive misinformation and or mischief. Supertech Limited, which is the vendor, at some point realized that a lot of the equipment, and I'm referring to the BVR kits, had broken down and needed some refurbishment. So they wrote to their manufacturer, which is the HSB identification. So HSB identification gave a response to Supertech. And so in a response by HSB identification BV, that is the manufacturers of the BVR kits, to Supertech Ghana Limited, in this case the vendor, which response was dated 18th May 2018, relative to repairs of 40 BVRs, indicated that items in the BVR kits, including laptops, are EOL, which means they are end of life. This implies that there are no parts to repair the various components that make up the kits. They further unambiguously recommended that for purposes, and I'm quoting, for purposes of availability, maintainability, and compatibility in the future, they recommended that new BVRs be purchased. It is also important to add that this letter was written, like I said, on the letterhead of HSB identification, and it was signed by one Marcel Bougard. So it cannot be the case that the EC delivered well-packaged lies, as is being alleged. If there are any packaged lies, they will most likely be originating from the supposed email exchange, whose authenticity cannot be verified on the face of it, or that email correspondence, which I can create myself anyway. I just need to create 2 email addresses, send emails to myself, print that out and say, oh, well, this is correspondence from some company and so on. This, of course, runs counter to the claim made by those who are resisting the production of a new register, that the Electoral Commission lied and that the very basis of their decision to do a new register, which is that the equipment are obsolete, is untrue. These are the letters that belie the claim by those individuals who claim they are resisting the production of a new register.
So, 2 separate groups formed, one for, the other against. Well, as we've just heard there, the Mass Action Movement, they are for a new voters register. They are challenging the other group, the Inter-Party Resistance Against the Voters Register, to go to court if they have issues.
It is absolute mischief for anybody to suggest the EC is engaged in wasteful spending, much less cause financial loss to the state, when all they have done is give the good people of Ghana value for money. The mention of the offense of causing financial loss, in our view, is yet another tactic in a series to intimidate, scare, and/or blackmail the Electoral Commission into renouncing their decision to compile a new voter register. We regard their attempt to insinuate that the value for money procurement that the Electoral Commission is doing amounts to causing financial loss to the state. In our view, is nothing short of an attempt to intimidate, scare, and/or blackmail the Electoral Commission into abandoning their decision to compile a new voter register. We are, however, comforted in the fact that Ghana is ruled by law and that the Constitution protects the Commission from such threats. If the group feels strongly, and by the group I mean those who think we should not have a new register, if they feel strongly that an offense has been committed, the courts are there to address their concerns. Absent that, they should quit the intimidation and scaremongering.
Atiq Mohammed heads the Mass Action movement. And Benedict is here with the latest from the world of sports. What's happening?
Yes, Evans, a lot happening in the world of sports. Now, a lot of reactions have come in following CK Akono's announcement of his 23-man squad for this month's Nations Cup doubleheader qualifier against Sudan. Now, a former Black Stars Management Committee chairman who is now a member of the Management Committee, Fred Papo, thinks the squad is good and wants massive support for Coach Akono.
Knowing CK very well from his playing days together with David, these are very committed and confident players, and you could see that in their coaching careers, you know, from Dreams FC, Ashanti Gold, Kotoko, Duncan to Kotoko, Hearts of Hope, Olympics. These are very young and dynamic and positive-minded people. At the same time, they are very disciplined. These are guys who stick to discipline and they will not spare the rod to get the team going. And to see, even looking at the caliber of players they have invited, I believe it's quite interesting. It answers a lot of questions, and we can only hope that things will work out for them in Ghana.
So that's Fred Papo, who is now a member of the Black Stars Management Committee. Now, away from the Black Stars, the Black Queens suffered a 3-0 defeat to Chile in the opening Group B match at the 2020 Turkish Women's Cup. Now, Ghana's next match will be against Northern Ireland. That will be on Saturday. Well, the round of 32 of the MTN FA Cup draw was held today, and Accra Hearts of Oak will battle second-tier side, that's Okowu United. Mediama SC will host King Faisal in an All-Premier League encounter. Ashanti Gold will face lower division side Samatex. So you look at the Zone 1, that's the Northern Upper Brunafo region. We've got some interesting games to come. Royal Tamale United, Crocodile Stars. And then Zone 2, which is the Ashanti Central Western region zone. Venomon Vipers will come up against Elmina Sharks. And Zone 3, Greater Accra, Volta Eastern region. Yes, I've already mentioned the Accra Hearts of Oak, Okowu United. Other interesting pairings, the Legon Cities up against Vision FC in the Division 1. And then Emmanuel FC Star Madrid. We have Liberty Professionals and Accra Great Olympics. That's also an all-Premier League encounter. And Tema Youth will come up against Wafa. So away from the local scene, yesterday we saw action between Liverpool and Chelsea in English FA Cup, where Liverpool recorded their third defeat in 4 matches. Well, it's not really going well for Liverpool fans. And tonight, we've got Manchester City, holders of that cup, that's the English FA Cup. They're up against Sheffield Wednesday. They go away. And also, Leicester City will be at the King Power Stadium to play against Birmingham City, with Tottenham Hotspur, Jose's Tottenham Hotspur up against Norwich City. Evans, that's your sport.
Thank you very much, Benedict. Still listening to Newsnight on Joy 99.7 FM. Now, barring any hitches, the first process towards the construction of the controversial National Cathedral will start tomorrow. The groundbreaking ceremony will be attended by President Akufo-Addo, as well as many high-level dignitaries. Remember, that particular construction was challenged at the Supreme Court, but was defeated. My colleague, Mama Viusu Abuaje, has been speaking with the Secretary of the Board of Trustees, Reverend Victor Kusi-Boateng. She first asked him what exactly will happen tomorrow.
We are going to witness the groundbreaking and the laying on the foundation stone by His Excellency the President of the Republic and a couple of Ghanaian Christian bodies and a couple of dignitaries. Officially, the building of the National Cathedral is about starting, and it starts from tomorrow.
Okay. Are we down with demolition exercises, pulling down of structures?
We have a few diplomatic things to go through. 2 buildings are here that we are dealing with, but all protocols have been responded to. So in a month, every single building sitting on this plot of land for the cathedral will be gone.
So for those structures still standing, what's been the issues?
Oh, it's a few issues. One is the passport's office that has been relocated, and one is the Malian embassy that was, sitting down for nothing. But because it has diplomatic implications, we are following due diligence, which of course we have. So very soon we'll be over and the 2 buildings will go down.
I did indicate the President's 100,000 Ghana cedis commitment, and I'm not sure if we know if the board has received this monies yet. So have you received it?
Sure, we've received the President's money, and not just the President's money. We've done a fundraising here in Accra. We did one in the United States of America in Washington, D.C. A few weeks ago, we did one in Kumasi. So a lot of people are expressing their concerns and giving the best that they can, because the cathedral will surely be built.
Okay, so how much money have we raised so far?
We have raised a couple of monies, but because it has to go through the auditing processes before they come out to be well authenticated, I wouldn't want to say something that is different when the auditing comes out. But we are raising money, and that is why we are able to start the project, God willing, tomorrow.
Okay, so tomorrow we'll see how it goes. Now, one of the many things that make MP for Sanerugu, ABA Fuseni, unique is not just his often animated gestures during interviews, but also his dexterity at lacing every sentence of his with an interesting proverb. He says it's a gift from God. He's honed by spending more time with elderly people. So, being a member of Parliament, he was asked on the Super Morning Show earlier today what his thoughts were about the Speaker's directives to journalists on the coverage of events outside the chamber.
When your mouth is full of water, you cannot blow to the country fire. See, even sometimes Mr. Speaker himself leaves the chamber, goes to do other business in his office or in other offices, and the media will have to follow him. If you are hungry, you don't jump into the cooking pot. It is not as if you just confine yourself to the chamber, even when there's breaking news outside. And so it's like telling a firefly in the darkness not to gravitate towards light. It is not possible.
Well, as a member of the Communications Committee in Parliament, what's his take on the shutdown of some radio stations recently?
When the landlord is there to tell the eloquent story of his house, you don't ask the caretaker for confirmation. I say without any iota of hesitation that the word came from above, that they should cease forthwith.
How do you know there was a word from above?
Oh, they say that when you even cough in the market, even the deaf can understand what you have said. So it is not a secret in the media landscape that we are.
Well, he was asked to endorse the Joy News Arrive Alive campaign. This was his response.
I've always said that the panacea for hunger is not to hold feces in your stomach. So go look for food to eat. We've pretended that our stomach is full when we are dead hungry and the problem has persisted. Government must first and foremost make the requisite level of resources available for the Road Safety Authority to perform.
Okay, so what is his joy story as we celebrate 25 years?
The sweetness of the pudding is not the aroma it emits. It's in the actual eating. And so I'm confident that even the laurels that you pick at the GGA Awards and other awards, and even the people you've turned out, they are of service to our society. Fearless journalism. I'm not saying that even if your head is strong, you should put it on the road as a test. May Allah Almighty protect all of you who go out.
So can you beat that? Well, some callers into the Super Morning Show at least gave it a hard try.
If your hand is in someone's mouth, you don't hit
the person by the upper head, else you'll be beaten. There's a saying in a way that it doesn't matter how huge or big a crocodile is, it's still from an egg. It means that no matter how big a child is, can never be like the parents.
Ichizo, Nyakazo, the monitor lizard shame is a crocodile shame. To translate it loosely, the NDC shame is MPP shame because they are all politicians.
Well, a word to wise is enough. That's my proverb. Enjoy the rest of your evening.